welcome back to another episode of Card Talk, a podcast where we spend a little bit of time talking about cards from Lord of the Rings card game. I'm your host, Dave Walsh.
And I'm Grant Thompson, just along for the ride.
And I'm Ted Bannock, and I love talking about cards. God help me, I do.
It's been a little bit since we've had a recording session, so I miss you guys. I miss the introduction there that we did. We actually got some. Go ahead, Grant.
I was just going to say I'm here every week. I'm just waiting for you guys.
Yeah.
Weekly live stream.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Well,
you know who else is with us all the time, Ted, don't you?
I'm going to guess our patrons.
Yes. So the only group of people...
Great.
What? What?
No, I said great. I guess.
Oh, I thought you said
wonderful.
Wait. I thought you said wait. I was like, wait, I'm waiting.
Wait.
The only group of people that's here more often than we are is our patrons. So I want to make sure that I give a shout out to all the patrons on the patron list. And so here we go. It's Daniel, David, Jake, James, and Jason. Jake and James are brand new, so they get new recognition. Thank you, gentlemen, by their names, I assume they're gentlemen. They could be ladies, I guess, but I assume they're gentlemen. So Jake and James and Jason and Joseph and Joshua and Justin and Kyle and Lou and Matt and Mike and Dominic and Phil and Robert and Russ and Sean. So we don't have anybody at the Ready Teddy level yet, but we still...
there's always
time.
Has taught us one thing. We can always hope.
Right. A Ready Teddy level patron is neither late nor early. He shows up right when he wants to.
Exactly what he means to.
Precisely.
Yeah. But I do want to reach out, send a shout out to Daniel, who's been a patron since almost the very beginning. And Daniel, he sits at the top of our patron list, and I always, whenever I'm looking for a person to just give a brief, quick shout out to, it seems like I always pass over his name because he's first on the list. So Daniel, thank you so much for being a patron since the end of November last year. You're coming up upon a year anniversary, so it's awesome, and we appreciate your support. So the patrons are awesome, Ted.
They let us talk about cards.
They let you talk about cards. Oh, Grant. Grant, you're the guy that's in charge of telling us what card we're doing today. So let us know.
Is it just today, or is it just in general? It feels like it's more of a generalized thing.
Yeah. Well, you keep us on track, I guess. So.
Okay, well, we're going back to the Black Riders box set for today's card. We are talking about Farmer Maggot, the 3-cost tactics ally, which has 1 willpower, 2 attack, 0 defense, and 2 hit points. With the response, after Farmer Maggot enters play, deal 1 damage to an enemy engaged with you. Deal 2 damage instead if that enemy's engagement cost is higher than your threat. So, as David likes to call him, Gandalf Light.
That's exactly what I call him. When I play this guy, I call Gandalf Light. Now, by no stretch of the imagination is he auto-include in all my tactics decks. But I find that he is a great include in Hobbit decks. When I play my Hobbit decks, I'm looking for this guy all the time with Raise the Shire, which is a fetch card. If you play Raise the Shire, you go look for a Hobbit in the top 5, or if your engagement, or if let me make sure I get this right. I'm doing it off the top of my head, so Ted, you can correct me
so
here.
Close.
I know
so close.
It's after you engage an enemy.
It's a 1-cost.
It's a 1-cost tactics event. That's a response after you engage an enemy. Search the top 5 cards of your deck for a Hobbit ally and put it into play. If that enemy's engagement cost is higher than your threat, search your whole deck. So Raise the Shire is amazing. Is an amazing card to have and then to bring out Farmer Maggot. And Farmer Maggot with his 2 attack, and then if you have Tom Cotton on the board, that makes him 4 attack. Like he's an attack powerhouse. So I really enjoy this card in Hobbit themed decks. Okay. Whew. There's my love for Farmer Maggot or Gandalf Light, but
Play Hobbits much, David?
yeah, I play Hobbits all the time. I love Hobbits. I enjoy Hobbits, and actually, it's because of Hobbits that I got into a little bit of a discussion with you guys about what makes a Hobbit deck, right? If you're going to play a Hobbit deck, it better be all Hobbits and Hobbit heroes, right?
Yeah, those lines are right. It's strange how we qualify things sometimes, right?
Yeah. Well, I want to play a Hobbit deck, so if I'm going to play a Hobbit deck, it's going to be all Hobbits, unless or mostly Hobbits, 90% Hobbits.
Yeah.
You see, I think the generalization for what makes a deck is what it's primarily made up of, whether that be heroes or allies.
I'm going to play my hero deck. What do you mean? No, it's primarily made up of heroes.
No, what I mean is for like the traits. So for example, a mostly Sylvan traded deck would probably be classified as a Sylvan deck.
Yeah. If your deck is synergizing off of a single trait, because you're playing multiple cards that have bonuses for that trait, I agree exactly, Grant. That's a good way to put it.
Okay, Grant, continue the discussion about Farmer Maggot, though.
Well, as far as Farmer Maggot goes, he is a stout attacker on the Hobbit side with that 2 attack, even without Tom Cotton, is very nice to have. He's got 2 hit points, which is standard for most Hobbit allies and Hobbit heroes. I love that he's got Fang and I'm guessing Rip with them.
I was trying to remember his dog's names, and
yeah, he's got 3 of them: Grip, Fang, and
is it Tooth? No, because there's Fang. It's a Fang, Rip, and Gnash, Claw.
Grip. It's
Grip.
Yeah.
Grip, Fang, and I'll have to look it up. You guys continue to talk about Farmer Maggot. I will look it up.
And I think he's all round an all right pick for most Hobbit decks if you've got access to the tactics sphere. Teddy, what do you think?
Yeah, you guys pretty much hit the points on the head. He's tactics, and he synergizes with 2 tactics cards very well. The hero Tom Cotton, and then David mentioned Raise the Shire. Wolf,
Grip, Fang, and Wolf.
Yeah, and he does generally fit best into a Hobbit archetype deck because you want to get his 2 damage effect to go off, even though he does 1 damage no matter what, which is nice, but the 2 damage, that extra 1 he does if the enemy's higher engagement than you, which just sort of fits into Hobbit decks. So he's usually include 1 to 2 of in most of those decks.
As long as it's not a Bond of Friendship Hobbit deck.
Yeah, then you might be a little higher on the threat side than usual for Hobbit decks. You can also sneak attack him in to get his effect too.
Yep.
Is a nice synergy as well. But yeah, and I say he's most often played in Hobbit decks, and outside of that, for 3 resources, I'm probably looking for someone stronger that maybe has a base of 3 attack or more hit points or something like that. But he fits so very well into the Hobbit archetype. And I do wish, I think the only missed opportunities is I wish that the dogs we just named, what were they?
Grip, Fang, and Wolf.
Grip, Fang, and Wolf. I wish they were all allies.
Yeah.
Or
well,
I
was to say we do have Loyal Hound, right?
Loyal Hound is the closest we got. Yeah. Or maybe like an event card and it was called their names and it was like boost a Hobbit's attack power by, right. +3. Like
just something seriously OP.
Yeah, something to reference them, but they are in the artwork, which is nice.
2 out of the 3 are.
Yeah. But yeah, he's a great card for Hobbit decks, and I think outside of that, less useful, but he's got the 1 willpower too, which is nice because sometimes you are just you're like, I need extra willpower, and you just send everybody that has willpower. And he's got the 1, and we got that one of the previewed cards, the Red Book of Westmarch, right? That boosts all a spoiled attachment that'll boost Hobbit willpower. So he'll go to 2. But yeah, I think you guys nailed all the points.
I was going to say that there's a couple of things that prevent him from being for me, a broader use ally. The first thing that drives me nuts, and I think even in a solo Hobbit deck, his cost of three tactics resources seem to find their way being used other places. Again, Raise the Shire is a place where they go. The weapons attachments, Foe Hammer for draw, Ringmail, things like that. The Sheriff of the Bywater Sheriff is always a great 2-cost ally. So I mean, there's a lot of. Just seems like 3 is a lot to pay for him in that in a Hobbit deck, and I find that I only want to bring him out if I can cheat him into play somehow. He would be he's a great target for Leaf Brooch because he enters play, or not Leaf Brooch. What am I saying? The Elfstone. Because he can come into play and then do his damage. And then the other thing that I will say that is to reiterate what Ted was saying is that that 1 willpower is something to keep in the back of your mind when you're playing an all Hobbit deck. He isn't just an attacker. He can contribute 1 to the. So if you have a Hobbit swarm on the board, you can use him to help that going on. So, but overall, I'm really a huge fan of Farmer Maggot in a Hobbit deck, but not other places. Yeah, I don't know, Grant.
Yeah,
I think. For when he was released, the 3 cost was an acceptable mark for him being released at, especially with that enters playability.
Mm-hmm.
But since the release of so many other direct damage cards, like the Galathon Archer and the other sort of enters play effects for the cost of 2, he's kind of overcosted in my opinion. Maybe dropping his cost to 2 would balance them out and make them more widely playable than just the standard, well, I need another Hobbit ally, I'll put him in.
Yeah, and I'm not grumpy necessarily that his cost is 3. He may be a little overcosted, maybe just right costed, but I think the three tactics resources are going to other places first before I pull out Farmer Maggot.
I agree.
The Daggers of Westerness. What are some of the other tactics?
Quick Strike, Unseen Strike.
Yeah, Unseen Strike is great in Hobbit decks. So Ted?
Unseen Strike is that's the one that's 0. I think is the Unseen Strike. For sure. Quick striking. If you got
Feint.
Mary at a really high quick striking, feints. You might have spent it on Halfling Determination, the event that boosts your stats, a Hobbit character stats. Or you might be spending it on neutral cards too. Three's a little up there, but if you get them to have 1, maybe 2 in the deck to synergize with your sneak attack, with your Raise the Shire, like he's great if you to have as another target for Raise the Shire. And you put in a couple, 3-4 allies. I think he was the primary target until Gaffer came along very recently.
Right. Yes.
But sometimes you already have Gaffer on the board if you're playing Gaffer, and if he's your strategy for your Hobbit deck. And so he's just another great target
He's another good target for timely aid and a very good tail.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
And Odo Proudfoot, which came out, is also he can dig through your deck and find a Hobbit, and so he's kind of like an ally version of Raise the Shire, you know.
Yeah, he puts it in your hand at least, then you can trigger a sneak attack or play him when you do get the resources.
Yeah. So if you have 3 tactics resources, I guess there's 2 ways we can talk about the question is, what do you do to make this guy more generally used? Which I think the answer is to probably make him worth 2. Or what are you gonna put in your deck if you're gonna spend 3 tactics resources? Like Bofer, which allows you to dig out weapons and armor, or just weapons, I guess. But
it really depends on the focus of the deck, really, and what the deck needs.
Right. Well, I guess that's what I'm saying. Like, what? In tactics, when you're spending 3, my big argument is, even in a Hobbit deck, I'm not spending 3 on Farber Maggot unless I don't have other tactics cards to play. Usually, so what 3 cost or what high cost tactics cards are we playing instead of this guy in most decks?
Legolas.
Yeah.
Legolas is certainly competition at 4.
Grimbold,
because he's got 2 willpower and can also act as a feint where he prevents an attack by discarding him from play, and that can also save your hide and to get 2 willpower for 3 resources, especially in tactics, is pretty good.
Right. Yeah.
The thing is, I'm probably playing. My resources are probably just more restricted. I'm playing a lot of the 2-cost allies like Riddermark Knights, Defender of Ramus. There's more
Honor Guard.
Yeah. For 3 resources, I want something a little more stat heavy. Like if you look at the, if you just want attack power and hit points for archery, if you compare him to the Bjorning Warrior, I want to say is his name.
Yep.
Yeah. The Guardian, he's also 3 costs, and he's 0 willpower, 3 attack, 0 defense, and 3 hit points. Right. So he's kind of more optimized for just attacking, and then he's also can take an extra archery soak or survive an extra damage. So something along those lines, I think.
Yeah, it's just interesting to see what the options are. I'm just going through the 3 cost allies. Skinbark, the Beachbone.
Yep.
Goofloth.
Yep.
Meneldor.
Yeah, Meneldor also great.
They seem Warrior of Dale in a Dale deck. That's the Bjorning Guardian you guys were talking about. That's just one of those things. That he's good in a Hobbit deck. I keep saying it, but he's good in a Hobbit deck, but he's not. He just seems to be, in terms of 3 cost. Even Pippin, the new Pippin ally, that's a tactics ally, is, in my opinion, is better long term than he is. Like you get to use Pippin. And then that's, I don't know.
Yeah, I think as Grant said earlier, like if he was 2, he would be like wonderful. He would be so good at 2 resources.
Yeah, and I think that if he were 2 resources, he wouldn't be overpowered necessarily, right?
Either,
I think he would still be.
Because if you're going to cheat in his play effect with sneak attacks and Raise the Shire, that has nothing to do with his cost. Regardless of what his cost, his ability would be the same.
Right.
I feel, because it's only 1 damage and it has to be engaged with you, and then it's a situational +1 damage. So yeah, I think if he was 2, it'd be better. But I still play him at 3 resources.
Yeah, I think we all play him at 3 resources if we don't have anything better at the time.
That's usually But there's a few times where his ability, like, oh wow, he'll come into play and do the 2 damage right away, and then I now have enough attack strength to kill an enemy that I wouldn't normally have. Is what happens.
He's a good ally. I just think for the time and for the ability compared to now, he's slightly overcosted.
Yep, I agree.
If he was brought out now, in relation to all the other hobbits, he'd probably be classed as a 2-cost ally. Or his ability would be changed slightly to make it more viable for a 3-cost.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess we can only beat the point so many times, right? It's like we keep saying the same thing over and over again. It just seems like
right.
It seems like we all agree on it. It's not like I'm the guy that's the outlier here, which I normally am because I'm not necessarily the best deck builder. But like I just feel like I love him in my Hobbit deck, but I just don't put him anywhere else in any other deck, right? Unless you're going to put a direct damage deck. I have put together a direct damage deck, and that's always good. But the problem that is, again, the you end up with better targets to do direct damage. Goblin Cleaver. Not that Goblin Cleaver costs anything, but I don't know. It just comes back to the same old things, I guess.
So, are we ready to ring Maggot?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so for anybody who is new or doesn't remember, we have a highly scientific yet arbitrary system where we ring a card on a scale from 1 to 10, where 1 ring is the 1 card to rule them all, and 10 rings is the card that we throw back into the fiery chasm from whence it came. And so we'll start with Farmer Mag. I guess I'll kick it off. I'm the Hobbit guy of the podcast, so might as well talk about it. So Grant and I were fortunate enough to do something like this with Sylvans, where a lot of the Sylvans fit into Sylvan decks, but that's about it. There are some Sylvans that fit into other deck archetypes. The Nath Guide comes to mind, is pretty good outside of a Sylvan deck and things like that. But I will say that I think Farmer Maggot is kind of the hobbitiest hobbit that in the tactic sphere, at least. Like it just seems like he fits right into that hobbit deck. Because you want the direct damage, but he doesn't do much else, right? It's a broken record, this episode. You rewind it 10 minutes, you hear the same thing. So because of that, he's good in 1 or 2 deck archetypes, but not good any other place. I have to give him a 7. I love hobbits, but he just, however much he's awesome in the hobbit deck, I have to give him 7 rings. Grant, what do you think?
Well, if we ever get round to doing a Hobbit month, like we did with your Sylvans, we can discuss how good he is during in that particular deck. For me, he's an okay ally. I've already stated my opinion, so I'm giving him a 6 rings. And Teddy, how about you?
I guess I'll be giving him the best. I'm gonna give him a 5. Just because he's kind of I feel like right in the middle of the road with the few points you guys already made. Like he's not as widely usable, but his ability comes in quite handy in a few situations where I'm like, wow, I'm really glad I had at least 1 copy of him in my deck. So I think he's just kind of right in the middle, and consider him for your Hobbit decks, but probably not much elsewhere.
Okay, everybody, there you have it. The first broken record episode that we had, where we just repeat the same 5 points about a card every for 20 minutes, 25 minutes. Join us again as we talk about more cards from the game. Have a great day, everybody. And if you're interested in finding this or any of our back episodes of Card Talk, feel free to search YouTube, where you can find our flagship video episodes with the username Card Talk 2018. Or you can search the RSS feed, cardtalk2018.libsyn.org, for our extended audio versions of our podcast. Or you can find us on Facebook at Card Talk 2018. And if you have any questions for Grant or myself, or for both of us, feel free to email us at cardtalk2018@gmail.com.